like little vlogs, sort of humorous vlogs, and talking about my hysterectomy, and also just being a midlife mum. And just the background to prove. I'm not going to promote it.
Okay, shall I hit live now? It's about 20 seconds.
Yeah,
go for
when
it.
you've hit it though, yeah.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hit it. Oh, it's the wrong way for the camera.
Hi, welcome to our second ever Facebook Live. Thank you so much everyone for sending in your questions this week for our panel of experts. We're going to be here for about the next half an hour, so if you do have any questions for anyone, please wave at us, smile at us, and most importantly send your questions in the comments section below. So I'd like to introduce you to our amazing panel tonight. On my left I have Elaine Miller. And Elaine, just tell everyone about who you are and what you do and why you're here.
I'm a pelvic health physiotherapist based in Edinburgh, and I wrote a comedy show about pelvic floors called Gusset Grippers that was on at the Edinburgh Fringe and did well, and I'm one of the members of Pelvic Roar, which is a campaigning group set up by physios aiming to try and promote women's health and women's issues.
Sorry.
Are we live?
Well, not yet. Can you see it yet now?
I'm not seeing it.
I think we are live. We'll start again.
Beauty of live Facebook feed.
Are we on?
It says live on here.
Talk amongst yourselves, everyone.
Go, start.
Okay.
Start again.
Okay,
Sorry,
we're not starting again. This is not live TV. This is literally life in the Latte Lounge. So you've probably seen my preamble, but if you haven't seen my preamble, welcome again. Thank you for sending in all your questions, and please send in lots of questions now and wave just so we know you're there. So let's start again. So Elaine, say hello.
My name's Elaine Miller. I'm a pelvic health physio based in Edinburgh, and I wrote a comedy show about pelvic floors called Gusset Grippers that did well in this year's Fringe, and I'm part of Pelvic Roar, which is a campaigning group set up by physios to try and promote women's health issues.
Okay, and over to Kathy.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Abernethy, and I work in the NHS as a menopause specialist nurse, and I'm also chair of the British Menopause Society, the professional organisation for people working in this field, and the proud author of the book Menopause, the One-Stop Guide.
Lovely, thank you. And Jane, hi.
I'm Jane Lewis, and I suffer dreadfully from vaginal atrophy, and my daughter and I have written a book called Me and My Menopausal Vagina.
Thank you very much. And we're here tonight with Sylk Natural Lubricant, and this is Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki, and we're delighted to co-host this evening. We're from Sylk Natural Lubricant. Sylk is a lubricant for vaginal dryness, and we're really passionate about sexual health and well-being. So to kick off, we're going to start by, we've already had some questions in, so I think we're going to kick off with one, which I'm going to give to Kathy. So this person who wants to be anonymous has asked, I'm never certain what to use and when. I've been prescribed Tibolone for verbal dermatitis. I use Sylk, but what I realise is I'm not sure if I should use it all of the time. Should I also use estrogen cream?
That's really interesting. I'm assuming that if you've got a diagnosis of vulval dermatitis, this lady's sure that that's the diagnosis. Tibolone is a type of HRT, so although it will help vaginal symptoms, she may well be better with some proper vaginal estrogen, either a cream or a pessary or the ring. And yes, using Sylk, the answer to the question is you can use it as often as you need to. So you don't need to limit it, and that's the nice thing about lubricants, they can be used with or without vaginal estrogen.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I've got another question, similar, vaginal area, so I think this might be a good one for Jane, but please, rest of the panel do chip in as well. So this lady asked, can you give me some advice, please, for a very sore vulva? I get very sore on the outside. Until recently, I've been okay wearing soft leggings, but I can't even manage that now. It makes that area so sore, burning and hot, and a bit itchy, and it takes about a week to calm down. I've never had any gynae problems. I was hardly bothered by the menopause, and I never had to take HRT. What do the panel advise which will help? My vagina is okay using Replens and Vagifem 3 times a week, so I don't feel I need anything other than that internally. I apply Sylk after every visit to the bathroom. From what I've read, it seems that if I'd been on HRT, I wouldn't have this problem. Also, that you can't start using a hormone cream at my age. She's 69. Is that right?
I'm going to talk, and then I'll pass over to Kathy if she disagrees with what I say. But I always say, always make sure you've been checked properly, because people assume it's vaginal atrophy when there are other things like lichen sclerosis that very often get missed, and the older you get, the more chance it could be that. So if you have been completely checked and you do not have lichen sclerosis or one of the other skin conditions, then she's definitely not too old to start using local estrogen, either in the form of the pessary, or some people need pessary internally and some cream externally, and that's how I would.
Yeah, I agree completely. This lady says she's on Vagifem already.
Yeah.
But Vagifem, the nature of Vagifem is that it goes right inside the height of the vagina. And for some women, it just doesn't reach the skin around the outside. So it's really worth asking the doctor, once he's checked everything else out, as you say, to see if they can add in some vaginal estrogen cream, just a tiny, tiny amount around the outside of the vaginal lips.
Yeah.
And that can make a huge difference for some ladies. Not all doctors will be used to doing that.
Yeah. But it's such a weak amount, isn't it? Such a tiny,
just a tiny amount, like a fingernail full,
it is.
and it makes a big, big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question for Elaine. But again, the rest of the panel do chip in. I've been suffering terribly for the last 5 years with vaginal dryness, which I had no idea was a symptom of perimenopause until I joined your Facebook group. I'm still having periods and I'm only 42, so I just thought something was wrong with my marriage and my husband couldn't turn me on anymore. So it's a huge relief to know it's not him, but my hormones, as I do still love him and fancy him very much. I don't want to take HRT at the moment as I have a history of breast cancer in my family. So what can I do to help this really embarrassing situation?
I think you deserve congratulations for still fancying your husband. It's the first thing to say.
Elaine's a comedian, so she can say that.
I can't say I'm a bit jealous. That'd be awful. So lubricant is your friend, really. It's a normal thing that happens as we get older. Your vagina, when you become sexually aroused, then your vagina is going to produce lubrication naturally. And that can change at times when you're pregnant, breastfeeding, some points of your menstrual cycle, and then when you're menopausal. So there's lots of different types of lube available. Some of them are better than others because some of them, I don't know what they put in that stuff, but I think it might be WD-40. It's not.
It's not like Sylk.
It's not like Sylk. Great. Sylk is really good, and with the applicator, you can get it right up where you want it to go. So yeah, lube is your friend. I would just slap that on, lashings of it.
But I'd say on that, make sure that you whatever you do use is pH friendly, so that it's not going to cause any nasty, bacterial infections, because as Elaine was saying, there's a lot of kind of bad stuff out there. So make sure you buy something that's pH friendly, it's NHS approved, and that look at the ingredients as well.
And is it prescribed by your GP? Because we get loads of people on the group. So
Yeah,
they say,
you
know,
can.
do I just buy it over the counter, or do I?
You can do both. So you can get it prescribed, but you can also just buy it over the counter as well.
I think on this lady's comment as well, I'd just add that this myth that you can't use vaginal estrogen if you've got a family history of breast cancer is not right, because family history implies that you yourself have not had breast cancer. So vaginal estrogen would be absolutely safe for this lady to use as well. And again, this combination of vaginal estrogen and lubrication is much better than either one on their own.
I mean, it's a very good question. It comes up a lot, and I know a lot of people on the group know that we're hosting a breast cancer conference the October 31st, but one of the most common things that people say is they don't want to take HRT because of this myth that it's going to cause breast cancer, so they are suffering in silence.
And vaginal estrogen is not HRT
anyway,
it's completely different.
Right.
And it's so easy to muddle up. Everything you read about HRT doesn't apply to vaginal estrogen.
I don't think it helps the leaflet that's in the box.
Absolutely.
Because it's the same as HRT. It needs to have its own leaflet.
Is it?
Yeah, and that's a licensing issue.
Yeah, that's what scares people.
and we've tried, as a society, we've tried to get the government to change that, and they are very resistant, but it's very misleading.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't even want to read it.
No.
Okay, another question. It's quite an interesting one, and I've heard this question lots and lots of times actually. What happens when the menopause is over? Do we go back to how we were, i.e. do all the symptoms suddenly disappear and we feel great again? Probably another one for Kathy.
Well, I'd like to say you're superwoman when the menopause has happened. Ultimately, yes, you will go back to normal. That's what we're all aiming for. And for many women, the menopause is a bit of a hump, and it's a bit tricky, and we navigate our way through it one way or another. But actually, you come out the other side and you're normal again. The other question that goes along with this is what happens if you take HRT? Are you just delaying
Yeah,
the
that's
inevitable?
always asked. Yeah.
Women, I get
Yeah.
asked that so often.
Yeah.
And if I could just explain that you don't delay it, what you do is you override it. So if you were going to have symptoms for 3 years and you take HRT for 3 years, then you come out and you're at the other side of it. Whereas if you only take it for 2 years, you come off and you've still got a year left. So some women will get symptoms when they come off, but they're the ones that would have been having them all that time.
And the worry, I mean, it's something that happened to me and why I started the group, is that, you know, for 4 years, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought I had low mood, or I just thought I was anxious or stressed, and every doctor I went to didn't look at all these symptoms as one. They just thought, here's a teary girl who's not coping, she's obviously depressed. So for me to finally, I hadn't even heard of the word perimenopause, and a lot of women don't, and so a lot of my friends, you know, we're 40, we're 45, we're still young and trendy, and we're not sort of thinking that symptom down there and this symptom up here is connected. And people, you know, people say to me, well, why are you on HRT? You're still 40. And actually that's something that I kind of wanted to get across, that it's, you know,
Yeah,
so
I mean, the
it's not-
perimenopause can start way before the menopause, the menopause itself, which is when the periods stop. You know, that's all the menopause is, but the
Yeah.
perimenopause is actually what we're interested in,
yeah,
because that's when women
have
feel all the symptoms.
Yeah.
And actually, when you get through the perimenopause into menopause, most women do come out the other side and feel fine. Not
Yeah.
everybody, but
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
So, and that's interesting because there's a question here, and this lady's asking, I have terrible hot flushes and I want to start HRT, but I'm only 45 years old. I still have the occasional periods, but I can't sleep at night now at all, as the night sweats make me have to get up and change my bedding, open the windows, turn the fan on. It affects my husband terribly too, poor man, as he wakes early to go to work and I disturb him. Am I too young to take HRT? Do I need to have a blood test? Can I go on it if I still have periods? I've weighed up the pros and cons, and my quality of life is so affected, I feel the pros outweigh the cons.
It's interesting, isn't it? Just remind me how old this lady is.
45.
Again? Yeah, so you don't really need a blood test at 45. Your body tells you what's going on, and what this lady is describing is classic perimenopause, as you mentioned earlier. So no, it's not too early to start HRT, and if the symptoms that she's getting are recognised as menopause. Now, there is the caveat that at 45, just need to check that she hasn't got a thyroid condition as well, and that there's nothing else causing those flushes. But generally speaking, the menopause happens at any time. You can start HRT at any time.
But also, I never had hot flushes, and that's the thing, is people think, well, all these things, the vaginal dryness, the low mood, the teariness, the brain fog, well, it can't be perimenopause
It makes
because I'm
it
not
much
having hot
harder to
flushes.
recognise.
Yeah.
The ladies like that, like you,
Yeah.
because everybody recognises hot flushes as being menopause related.
Yes.
But everything else that doesn't get
No.
recognised.
I know.
And actually they say there are up to, is it 32, 33 different symptoms that you
34,
can
I
get,
think they say.
34. And actually one of them
I've
is
had lots
the
more than
burning tongue. I mean,
Yeah,
there are
I
lots
had
of
that
ways.
last week.
And
I know.
itching skin.
So we had that last night, some lady who came on the group saying that she had really itchy skin, and everyone's saying, well, is it liver, and everyone else was saying, is it menopause?
Yeah, but it
But,
could be
it could
hormones. I mean,
yeah.
the classic, the terminology is actually called formication. That's the term for this. And it's a recognised, no, formication. It's a recognised term of it feeling like crawling.
Yeah,
And I think that's
yeah.
what that lady was
Yeah,
describing.
yeah, I have this as well.
Horrible.
Yeah,
Ants, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ants up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's a classic menopause symptom,
yeah,
but missed by many people.
okay.
And a question for Jane. I have a burning pain in my vagina every time my husband comes near me. I freeze. I avoid having sex with him wherever possible, as it's so painful and I'm really embarrassed too. It's really affecting our marriage, as he has a very high sex drive, and it has got to a point now where we are arguing the whole time about it. I have an appointment to see a gynaecologist, But as with anything on the NHS, it's not for another 3 weeks, and I'm really scared that something more serious is wrong with me. It even hurts to sit down or drive for long periods. It feels very hard and dry around the vulva area, and I am mortified to even be writing this to you, but I'm desperate. It's just so sad, isn't it?
And actually,
Just-
before you answer that the lady who sent that to me anonymously, I mean, she is literally at the end of her tether. That, you know, she's going through counselling, and it's just purely because of
Well, I
this.
think Jane is probably the perfect
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
I was like this, and so many of the ladies in my group are like this. And I didn't have a husband who made me feel bad at all. He's been excellent throughout. So for the ladies who have a husband as well, that makes it's even harder. But once you've been checked out for all the skin conditions, like lichen sclerosis, etc., the obvious thing is that you do have a hormone problem, and you do need at least local oestrogen. For myself, I need HRT and local oestrogen, but also a women's health physiotherapist can help with this sort of thing as well, because I have a combination of the two, and using dilators also, to start off with something the size of your finger and gently working up to the size of a penis, so that you're not scared off by having intimacy straight away. But yeah, it can make you feel absolutely desperate.
I'd want to say to this lady, I mean, it is a very sad story. There is help available. It's finding the right person to give you the treatment, but also take it. This condition has not developed overnight. It's not going to get better overnight. It is going to take a few weeks.
It took me nearly a year to be
Yeah, it
honest with
does
you.
take a few weeks or a few months
so bad.
to improve, but it will get better.
But what is the order of things? Because a lot of the time, people that you go to, you have a symptom, whatever it is, you go to a GP, they might treat something, doesn't work, you go back a few times, you then get frustrated trying things yourself. A lot of women end up just, having to find a private, menopause counsellor or whatever it is.
Thrush seems to be the end thing to be told you have.
Yeah, sometimes they do have thrush and
Sometimes,
vaginal
yeah,
dryness, and
together,
that's even
that's
more
right.
confusing
Yeah.
because the bacteria and everything in the vagina is changing because of the pH, and so that women, as you know, can be more susceptible, so they end up with both.
Yeah, and personally, I don't know, the gum clinic can be amazing for some of us ladies.
So what did you end up doing that helped you?
Well, I've had quite a lot. Mine was really
If you don't
quite.
mind me
Mine started
asking,
at
by the way,
45, which is actually quite young. I've still got eggs in my ovaries. I'm 52, so I'm still pretty fertile, and I'm not the normal one. But I have had to have local estrogen internally, externally. I'm HRT, and I've had to have laser treatment, which is it is controversial because the wrong people are getting it and having it done by the wrong people. For me, that my episiotomy scars were almost splitting open, but now the laser treatment has put that back to a very good condition, which is now allowing the local estrogen to work, because before the laser treatment it wasn't working. But too many people having laser treatment giving it a very bad name. The wrong people have it done.
Yeah, I think with laser treatment, in a way we need to sit back and just let there be a bit more research about it.
Yes.
For some women, like you say, it's very good in the
Yes.
hands of a good gynaecologist. But it hasn't been appraised.
It's
by
being
nice
tested on the
standards.
NHS at the moment, isn't
Yeah.
it?
There
Yeah,
isn't any
no.
appraisals on it at the moment. The FDA put a warning out, not to say it's dangerous. It's not. There's no suggestion that it's dangerous, but just that we don't have the evidence to support it.
And the wrong people are having it done. Too many people having it.
So I think we've got a question about it that's just come in anyway, but the whole theme of World Menopause Day is sexual well-being, and there's a lot of women our age, there's low libido, and again they don't think that's a symptom, and I think a lot of marriages are in trouble because of this one sort of thing. So is there any other solution? Because I know a lot of women say when they go on HRT it makes a difference, but is there any sort of other natural alternatives that can help?
I think one of the problems with sex drive at the menopause is that the menopause happens when we're under so much pressure from other things.
Like this, the midlife sandwich generation.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's never just hormones.
yeah.
So even if I had the perfect hormonal solution for female sex drive, it wouldn't solve the problem because relationships have to be dealt with. Women have to address their own pressures and stresses. But HRT often does help. Good lubrication. Breaking that cycle of where it hurts, so I don't want to do it. So if I don't do it, I'm not getting aroused. If I'm not aroused, it hurts, and then I don't want to do it. And it's breaking that. Did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I agree that it's not as simple as just.
It's not just a one
Sort of,
solution. Yeah.
Even like body image changes as you get older, and if there's issues from your marriage when your children were young, sometimes that is a bit of a hangover to when you get older, and people get tired and once grandchildren are, then you're busy with them. So yeah, it's complicated. This is why there's no Viagra pill. because we're complicated.
And actually, the International Menopause Society, who sets up the World Menopause Day, said that sexual well-being. This isn't all just about sex, as it were. It's to do with emotional health, intimacy, relationships as well. That's all
feeling
part
good
of
about
sexual-
yourself.
exactly. And if I've
Yeah.
had women say, "Oh, I just feel dreadful all night, flushes, sweats. I don't want him anywhere near me." It's not actually hormonal. It's just I'm feeling awful.
Yeah.
I think as well, someone said to me, I think it was Pam Custers, who's a relationship advice person, and she said foreplay begins on Monday, and I was a bit like, what? And what she meant was, if you're arguing about who's going to
Put the
be
bins out.
doing the packed lunches and
Yes.
or whatever, all those arguments, the bins, then actually you're not going to feel sexy by, you go to bed all Friday. And I think that was a really important piece of advice, that you need to be having or thinking about the dialogue that you're having at home with your husband, in order to facilitate that kind of physical
And also
intimacy.
there's a whole thing about, men, we all go on about menopause, they haven't got a clue. I mean, I feel, terrible for my husband. He actually said, I lost my wife for 4 years and now I've got her back. But I'm sure there's loads of men that don't understand, and I think, it's almost not fair. We go through, when we're teenagers and young adults, we're periods and we're stroppy and we're moody, and then we're sort of okay for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we're there, and then we're pregnant, and then we're moody again.
But how can we bring them into that conversation? Because I think it was interesting that someone had done a review, or a man had done a review of your book, and I think that that's great, because
Brilliant.
we probably
Yeah.
don't involve them in the whole hormones, menopause, what's going on, and I think we should do. So how can we get them?
I think men are asking. I mean, one of the things I've noticed when I sell the book on the website is that actually I'm often sending them to Mr. So-and-so.
Yeah.
Reading through quickly.
Yeah.
What's wrong with my wife?
So I think men
Yeah.
sometimes do, but it's difficult for them to get information. I mean, if women struggle to do it,
Yeah.
how hard
Actually,
is it for men?
Diane Danzybrink, which I think
Yeah.
most of you know, and hi Diane. I'm wearing Diane's badge. Diane is campaigning today, I think, at Westminster. So make menopause matter. But I wanted to thank Diane, because Diane's actually written a blog for our website, explaining very clearly and simply what menopause is for men. So actually it's quite a good resource for the women in our group to print it off and give it to the guys.
And actually, if men do want to, I mean, there was a survey last year through the British Menopause Society saying that men did want to support their wives, but they didn't know how to.
Yeah.
It could be taught in school. When we're doing sex ed in school, it'd be great if people came out of school knowing what they can reasonably expect from their genitals during the course of their lifetime.
Yeah.
That if we had people understanding what normal peeing, normal pooing is, then they would be able to recognise if they've got a problem. The same thing with sexual function.
Well, and periods as well. I mean, a lot of guys
And
don't
the
even know
Eva
what's
Pill are
in
actually
there.
campaigning to do that, aren't
Yeah,
they? To
they
try
are.
and change the curriculum around sex education, so that girls and boys understand a lot more about genitalia, about hormones, about periods, about everything.
Yeah, because in your biology lesson, you learn about how the birds and the bees, but no one ever.
Don't get pregnant. That's all you get told.
Yeah, but no one mentioned this. And the only thing I knew about it was I thought, well, it's just way off,
The
It's
Endometriosis Society as well are doing a good job to try and educate teenagers about menstrual health. And that's another generation that's going to grow up, hopefully, knowing a bit more.
And also about hormone health, understanding about how to look after, or understanding the journey you're going to go through. So my daughter's just about to start her period, and I'm trying to, in a quite a light way, but just sort of talk about her hormones and about what things that she can do to try and balance her hormones, and that I need to do as well at the same time. Because I think if they know now, then actually that will put them in good stead for when they go through their menopause.
And Elaine, will you tell us a little bit about what you do, your day-to-day job? What is a women's health?
So pelvic floor muscles are just the same as any other muscle. That if you had a problem with your neck, you would go and see a physio, and pelvic floors are down below. So we see a lot of women that don't have any symptoms at all with their continence until they become menopausal, and that's because with the loss of estrogen, then it affects not just your skin and boobs that used to be fantastic, and these are gone, but some of your pelvic floor muscles, that's right, some of your pelvic floor muscles attach onto the ligaments in your pelvis. So those ligaments start to be affected by the change of estrogen, so things become mechanically different. And also that affects your urethra, so people can become more prone to getting urinary tract infections. It's really common that women have had no symptoms at all until they're menopausal.
Yeah, we get a lot of people on the group actually who complain about UTIs, and so common and I assume that's a symptom as well, is it? I mean, not always.
Yeah,
but
if it's a
can
genuine
be.
UTI, I mean,
Yeah.
then it's not always even genuine UTI,
No.
is it?
Yeah.
It feels like that to the lady because
Because
that's
it's
how she.
burning. Yeah.
But it's not
Yeah.
necessarily. It can be because of the vaginal dryness.
Right. Okay.
I've just got a question in actually. And this lady says, can anyone recommend something natural to try, not HRT, to cope with all my symptoms in the menopause? I'm 52, I haven't had a period for 2 years, I have terribly dry skin all over, I have very low mood, I cry all the time, I have brain fog, hot flushes, night sweats, absolutely no libido whatsoever, partly because my skin inside is dried too. My life feels so miserable, I can't cope at home or at work. My husband says he doesn't recognise the woman I've become, and the zero libido means he's obviously frustrated and depressed himself too. The other embarrassing thing is that since having 3 babies, my pelvic floor muscles are non-existent, so not only does my husband say rather unkindly that there is no feeling for him during intercourse, I now have leakage when I leave the toilet. I really don't want to have to start wearing incontinence pads, feeling very, very depressed about everything.
Well, leaking is really common. It's 1 in 3 women on average that have problems with their bladder control, and sorting your pelvic floor so that it's strong and responsive is incredibly efficient. There's lots and lots of evidence that pelvic floor exercises work. So I'll mention about how you actually do them.
Please do. Yeah.
The trick about teaching pelvic floor exercises is knowing if you're doing it right or not, because there's a lot of confusion. A lot of women are very dissociated with what they've got down below. So if you were going to teach somebody how to fix their bingo wings, usually people have got an idea about what their arm is and what it does. But for your pelvic floor, it can be really difficult to know if you're doing them properly. And there was some studies done looking at different commands to give people, and the one that works the best is imagine you're trying to hold in some wind. I will say, how posh are we?
We're not posh on here at all, actually. Go for it.
Because most people are aware of that action, and if you can feel something happening at the back, then it is happening at the front as well, because all of the muscles have got the same function and they all share a nerve. So if you feel it's working somewhere, it's working everywhere.
Are we all doing it now?
Psychologically, I have that effect on lots of people. So the action is that of the muscles is that it squeezes and lifts. So it squeezes your holes shut when you want them to be shut, and the muscles have to relax to allow pee to come out, poo to come out, and penetration to occur, which is why I need Sylk. And the lifting action is to support the organs that are sitting on top of your pelvic floor and to resist the forces that they're subjected to. So every time you laugh, cough or sneeze, there's a force pushing down on your bladder, and so if your muscles aren't strong enough to resist that, you're going to leak. So to make it work, you need to do a couple of things to make sure that you're not cheating. The first one is don't hold your breath, because your pelvic floor is not fixed. It moves up and down as you breathe. So your diaphragm rises and falls, and your pelvic floor goes with it. And most people that I see in clinic would have a weak pelvic floor, but some people can have a tight, fixed pelvic floor that's in spasm, and the symptoms that they get are almost exactly the same as weakness, that they get lots of leaking, but they would also get pain, particularly pain and penetration. So if you get lots of pelvic aching, if you do the exercises and they're sore, or if you get pain and penetration, you probably shouldn't even start coming to clinic instead, and make sure that you're screened to make sure there's nothing else happening, because a tight spasming muscle you don't want to make tighter and spasming, or it's not going to be helpful. So for the rest of us, don't hold your breath so that the muscles can rise up and down while you're working them, and don't cheat by clenching your butt cheeks or your thighs together. The action is right underneath. Have a visual image that I tell people that isn't very nice, but imagine that you're trying to make enough space in your gusset for somebody just to slip, fold a £50 note in. It's awful. I'm so sorry, but it works. So
That's a good tip. Top tips, mums?
technically, folded fibre is about the same space, but you would. So you have to sigh out, because when you sigh out, then your diaphragm is going to be rising up, so it's much easier to do the contraction. You sigh out and you squeeze and lift. So I'm doing it now. So you squeeze and lift and hold it for a count of 10. Because if you can contract your pelvic floor for a count of 10, there's a there's a reflex inhibition of the urge to pee. So if you're in a queue that's longer than you're expecting, it buys you more time, so it can cut down on this urgency symptom that people can
So
have.
this lady, for example, is it something that if she keeps doing this long enough, it'll get
Yeah.
stronger and she doesn't?
It takes ages, like it takes 3 months. The advice is that you do a hold for a count of 10 and then 10 quick flicks in a row. It's slower than that actually, more than that, like that. Because if you laugh or cough or sneeze, your muscles have to do a quick contraction and then relax again. So you need to do the 2 of those 3 times a day for 3 months to get this. But the cure rate with stress incontinence and doing pelvic floor exercises is between 60 and 70%. And we know that if women, there's a study that was very good that showed that 6 sessions of physio has up to an 84% cure rate for stress incontinence. And cure, not so that you're a bit better, but so that you can do whatever you want to. That's for stress incontinence, which is the most common one. As you get older, incontinence changes, so people will have more problems with urgency, which is when you have to go for a pee, you have to go now, and mixed incontinence, which
So
is
this lady that Nikki was talking about, should she go to her GP or to a health physio? I mean, what's the...
you can try doing them on your own. The problem with doing them on your own is remembering to do them.
Yeah.
So if you make it into a habit, do it when you brush your teeth. Or there's an app you can get called Squeezy, which is a great name, and it works. It flashes up your phone and reminds you to do them. You can use Twitter. I'm on Twitter and I nag people a lot.
What, what do you mean?
Well, if I tweet, then I'm trying to get people. So if they see my avatar, they're supposed to think about the pelvic floor.
Oh,
And it'll
okay.
remind them to do their
You'd be
exercises.
doing that a lot.
What do you say to the ladies who I see who say, I just can't feel anything?
Yeah, that's really difficult. If you can't feel anything at all, then the advice is to try doing it lying on your tummy so that you offset the effect of gravity, because if you're very, very weak and you're sitting, your muscles are having to work against gravity. So try it lying down on your belly, put a pillow under your hips so that you can get gravity to help. If that doesn't work, then you have a look with a mirror, because when you do a pelvic floor contraction, when you do this squeeze and lift, you can see the tissue move. So that can help try and get a contraction going. But if it's a matter that they're actually really, really weak, then that's when we would use other treatments, so you can get electrical stimulation to try and trigger a contraction. And then as they get stronger, they're able to initiate it themselves.
Some questions come in about this actually, asking if it's okay to run or does it harm your pelvic floor?
Depends on how strong your pelvic floor is and whether you've got a prolapse, and harm is a difficult word because with exercise you've got to balance up the pros and cons. So if you're doing it for your general health and well-being and for your mental health and time to yourself, that's really, really important. And one of the problems about incontinence is it becomes an almost complete barrier to exercise. So we wouldn't want people not to exercise for fear of damaging their pelvic floor. There's things that you can do. So if you make sure that when you're running, if you're doing any exercise, if you're into CrossFit or running or things that have got a lot of impact, then that's harder work for your pelvic floor. So you want to be making sure that you're not leaking. If you're leaking, that means you're doing something that's just creating too much pressure for the muscles to cope with. So cut down the intensity of what you're doing. Don't stop, just change it. If you see a pelvic health physio, we'll be able to tell you exactly how strong you are and exactly what you can cope with and manage and how to strengthen, so you can back up to the training that you want to do. There's some gadgets that you can get as well. With prolapse, women are often prescribed pessary to sort of support the whole region. There's a couple that you can buy off the shelf, one's called Contiform and the other one's called IncoStress. Contiform's much lighter, IncoStress looks like a tampon. But it's got a bit more weight in it, so if your muscles are a bit weaker, it can be harder to hold it in. Lots of women find that when they run, they leak less if they've got their period and they're using a tampon, just because it splints up the weight of the bladder bouncing off the pelvic floor. So if exercise is something that's important then, and it's a concern, get some advice. You can self-refer to physio in lots of places. Or you just phone up the department and say you'd like to be seen, or GPs can refer you.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, can you just tell people a little bit about the register, because that's obviously very important.
Yeah, I mean, people say quite rightly that it can be very difficult to access good menopause advice.
Yeah.
And some GPs are very, very good, we know that, and some aren't. So what the society has done, the British Menopause Society, has put together a register of practitioners who have met certain criteria, so they have to meet certain standards in care to show that they're good at their job. And that register is now open access, so women can go onto the register, which is on the British Menopause Society website and the Menopause Matters website, and it can be linked on your website. Lots of places you can access it, so it's going to be on the Sylk website as well. So there's actually surprisingly quite a good number, but they're sometimes hidden, not being able to find out who they are. So women will now be able to access them. Some of them are NHS, so they need GP referral. Some are private, and some are actually GPs, very good GPs.
So do most GP practices have a menopause trained doctor?
Sadly not yet.
No.
We are aspiring to that.
Yeah.
The vision for menopause care in the UK is that every practice has a practitioner with an interest,
Yeah.
and then every region has a specialist, because not everybody should need a specialist,
No.
but some people have problems even accessing that practitioner with an interest.
Because a lot of, including me, but a lot of the people that come to the group have one or two symptoms, and they think, well, it might be this, it might not, and they kind of plod along and sort of put up with it and get embarrassed to actually go for help. But when they do go for help, sometimes I feel, because it happened to me, that there's some fabulous GPs, but a lot of GPs don't ask the right questions.
And they don't have time,
And they don't. You have 10 minutes. What is it? 10 minutes or 5?
In my clinic, lots of women spend the first 5 minutes crying because they're so grateful that somebody's listening.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to tell your story.
But I almost wish that there was, if you're presented with a woman over 40, and I'm sure there's women who are younger, that it's almost one of the first questions you ask. So like,
you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean that's what you'd expect. Yeah. Is anyone out there, please send in some questions?
We've just had one come in actually.
Yeah.
We sort of mentioned it before when Nikki asked a question, but it's quite an interesting one, sort of moving away just from vaginal dryness, looking more at general kind of skin issues. Is it common to get eczema and skin disorders in perimenopause? It's coming from Kim. Thank you, Kim. So just more generally, I think,
I
looking
wouldn't
at
say
that.
that it's common, but it does happen, because when your body goes through the changes and the fluctuations in hormones, anything can happen to a woman's body, and for some women that manifests an increase of skin conditions. So I wouldn't say it's common, but it certainly can be the case.
And what can you do? What do you recommend?
Well, the condition should be treated in the same way, whatever it is. So it's eczema, it's treated as an eczema condition. And if it's dermatitis, if it's itching, whatever, you treat that. Sometimes HRT is the answer, because if there's other symptoms as well, it's obviously menopause. So taking HRT might help. But if it's a skin complaint, that needs to be addressed first and checked.
And dry eyes, that's quite a common
that
menopausal symptom, isn't it? Which I didn't know about.
I had that. I couldn't wear my contact lenses, and I couldn't work out why. Yeah, why is that? That's just a...
Unfortunately, that's a sign of generalised drying everywhere. Yeah.
Can't use Sylk in our eyes. Okay, moving swiftly on.
You can get eye drops, you can maybe have some omega-7s, they're good, those things.
Okay. Can we touch a little bit on nutrition? Because, I know we're talking about sexual well-being and everything, but a lot of that is to do with how you feel and how you look. And does diet play a part at all in menopause? Because I often wondered, I've struggled with my weight. The group knows pretty much. There's nothing they don't know about me. But I often wondered whether the fact that I struggled with my weight had anything to do with bringing on perimenopause.
Well, it
earlier.
would have brought it on, but they do go hand in hand. So when you go through the menopause, your metabolic rate changes. So chances are some women will be more susceptible to weight gain. Especially if they're also not feeling well, so they're not exercising as much, and perhaps comfort eating as well. So there's all sorts of reasons that women do gain weight. I wish there was a magic menopause diet, because I would make a fortune from it.
What about things like sugar?
Yeah.
People always say just cut out sugar.
It's not just sugar, is it? It's a generally healthy diet.
It's just having a healthy,
which includes reducing the sugar, low fat, making sure you're not having a high saturated fat diet. I don't think you need to cut out specific food groups, but you do need to try and be balanced, and also eat less really than we did when we were at 30. It is hard. It is hard. Calcium's important for bones.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because obviously, women who do take HRT, obviously it helps with osteoporosis, but those
they
that
still need calcium.
they do,
Yeah,
really?
they still, even if you're on HRT, you still need your calcium as well.
Note to self, take some calcium.
And calcium can be taken, you don't necessarily need a supplement. Calcium can be obtained quite easily through diet.
So even dairy products.
Or even non-dairy. So you can get orange juice fortified with calcium. You can get almond milk, oat milk some of those are fortified as well. And milk, dairy milk is the easiest way. So yes, making sure you get your calcium, and then in the summer going out and getting your vitamin D, and in the winter seriously considering a supplement. In this country, unfortunately, we don't have enough sun.
A vitamin D supplement.
Yes, vitamin D.
There was something in the Times last week saying that it wasn't, everyone's been saying that we must take vitamin D, but then there was something saying that there's nothing in it now, so that caused a whole big
There's always
on the
controversies,
group,
isn't there?
yeah.
I mean, at the moment, NHS England does tell us actually in this country that everybody should be considering vitamin
especially
D.
up in Glasgow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they never see the sun up there.
Yeah.
Every day it's just, we think we're miserable because of nature, but actually we're all vitamin D deprived.
Yeah. We need a holiday in the Caribbean in the winter, that's what I know.
Yeah,
That'd be
you know.
nice.
Yeah. Now, have we got any more questions from the actual Facebook group?
Nothing coming in at the
Come on,
moment.
guys.
Oh, hang on. Literally, something has just popped up. Asking about. That's quite interesting. Somebody's asking about yam cream, which I've never heard about before.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
Natural HRTs and yam cream. I've never
Yeah,
heard
of
of that.
course,
Actually,
yeah,
really
yeah.
interested to hear about that.
Yam creams were very popular about 10 years ago, really. They were sold on the internet. They're not licensed in this country. And they are, because the yams are one of those natural hormones, some companies have put them into creams and called them hormone creams.
Sorry, I'm
A
being
yam is like a
ignorant.
sweet potato, but it's a certain type of
Okay.
vegetable.
Okay.
But what companies have done is put it into creams, particularly in the States, and sell it as a menopause treatment. It's not licensed in this country, and actually the research tends to suggest that it doesn't even go through the skin. So those creams are nice for your skin, but they're probably not going to go through the skin. So probably not effective.
What about, can you clarify who shouldn't be on HRT?
Yeah, there's not many people, fortunately, but if you've had a breast cancer yourself, you should probably not take HRT, because most breast cancers are hormone dependent, and even if they're not, it's probably not a good idea to use more hormones after menopause. That's the principal group. There's some other cancers, for example, womb cancer. Some types of womb cancer, not all of them, stops women taking HRT. If you've had a blood clot or thrombosis very recently, especially if it's for no apparent reason, so you've not been on the pill, you've not been immobile, you've not had major surgery, that's a warning sign. So you just need to be a bit cautious. That's really, if your liver is really not working, you shouldn't have HRT, but I always say to women, if your liver's not working, you're probably not worried about your menopause. It's the liver that you need to worry
Yes,
about.
that's true. Yeah.
So most women can, varicose veins, migraines, you can take HRT, high blood pressure as long as your blood pressure is looked after. So all of those myths.
Right, okay.
That was quite an interesting. You mentioned something quite interesting then. That may sort of be linked to something that somebody, Donna, has just commented, asking about raised cholesterol. Is it common after menopause? Is it more,
Yes,
or
women's
during or after? I
cholesterol
should
does
say?
increase after menopause because the estrogen prior to menopause protects our hearts a little bit. That's why women are less likely to have heart problems before their 50s than men are. But we catch up with men after menopause. So cholesterol is one of the reasons. If it's a very high cholesterol, then that needs to be treated as a cholesterol condition. But if it's just creeping up, then dietary control, this goes back to what you were saying earlier, reducing saturated fats, getting rid of the excess weight, and some HRTs will help it too.
Okay. Getting a little flurry of comments now, which is nice.
Yay.
Yeah. I mean, another one. I think it's sort of vaguely being addressed, but
People might have missed the beginning.
yeah,
so-
exactly. Yeah.
so,
So it might be worth just revisiting this. Sarah Beth is asking if there are any sort of specific symptoms that mean you should be taking HRT. How severe do they need to be? And I think that kind of ties into quite, a bit of the discussion that we've had as to should I have HRT or shouldn't I? And maybe we can sort of just revisit that quickly.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is that if your symptoms are sufficiently bothersome that it's affecting your life, then seek help.
I think people think it's a sign of weakness.
Not at all.
And actually, I just got to a point where I just thought, well, I'm actually wasting away here.
And the
there's
thing is, nobody chooses to go on HRT for the fun of it. They go because it's affecting their life.
Yeah,
and
you
menopause is affecting
Yeah.
their life. So I would say don't put up with it too long if it is really bothersome. But no, there's no sort of measure that, oh, it's not bad enough for HRT.
Yeah, and that's a lot of. Is it true that there's some countries in Europe, or is this a myth, that they actually give it to everyone?
I don't think anybody gives it any to everyone yet. It's not in the water yet.
Okay, fine. That was a myth. Have we got anything else?
But it is true that we have one of the lowest prescribing rates of HRT.
Do we really? Where's the highest?
Probably France.
Yeah, I think that's where I heard. Yeah.
A lot more
Why is
French.
that?
Pelvic
That's-
floors in France.
Do they?
Yes, because they're treated
Yeah.
after childbirth.
They have re-education perianal in France, so everybody gets 6 weeks of government-funded postnatal physio.
That's amazing.
Far less problems than we
Wow,
have.
that's why they all look fabulous.
And don't they all have a gynaecologist as well?
They don't all, the actual prevalence of incontinence and pelvic floor disorders is exactly the same in France as it is
Okay.
everywhere else. The difference is that there's less taboo about seeking help,
Mhm.
and I think French women, because of that, are far less likely to put up with symptoms that are intruding in their life. So they are much, much better at thinking, not putting up with this, which we're not here.
And also, as you say, they can have direct access to a gynaecologist much
Yeah.
easier, whereas we have the gateway of a GP for all sorts of reasons, but it means you can't get to a gynaecologist here without going through a GP on the NHS.
And then I suppose you have to wait a long time as well.
I just want to pick up on something that a word that Elaine just used, which is taboo, and I think that's something that might be nice for us to have a chat about, because I think
It's a huge,
huge
it
thing.
is a huge.
Jane might be quite familiar with the taboo
Yes.
of menopause,
Yeah.
actually.
I personally didn't, like a lot of people, I thought menopause was hot flushes, heavy periods, that's
Yeah.
it. I had no idea about the vaginal side at all, and that was such a taboo. And I got to the point where, with all due respect, all these books are coming out, but they will touch on vaginal atrophy, and I thought we actually need one here, because this is the one that affects your mind, because you can't talk to anyone about it.
Did you talk to any of your
I mean,
friends?
yes, everyone knows I've got it, because you can't ride it.
Originally, when you were suffering, did you?
Yes, but some of you get help from people that come out of the woodwork that you never thought would be there, and the ones you thought would be there back off.
And is that because they're embarrassed, or they're just a bit ignorant?
I think both, but
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how many of them have problems themselves.
They just
And did you go to your GP? Is that where you first
Well,
kind of...
yes, I went to my GP, but I was originally misdiagnosed with, and it's not the GP I have now, it was a different one, with lichen sclerosis. And the GP said, don't worry, it might turn to cancer, we'll just cut it out. That was my presentation. But actually, I just had very, very bad vaginal, actually very bad. But I was given steroid cream at the beginning, which for vaginal atrophy is completely the wrong treatment. So it got much worse and became really bad. So it then was a very long road. But yeah, you just can't be taboo. We say feet, we say hands. We say, it's just a vagina.
But it's funny because, I mean, I actually wanted to ask you this question, whether there is a family sort of pattern with menopause, because, I sort of always ask my own mum, you never talked about it, why, and she said, well, I don't really remember it, or we just didn't. And I don't know if it's just a generational thing that we're just all talking about absolutely everything now.
I think it's a conspiracy. Mums don't ever tell me.
Yeah.
Mum, I know you're watching.
I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
That mums are not telling their daughters about it. Maybe they are genuinely forgetting what it was about.
Yeah.
And is there a link? There's definitely a link with the age that it happens. So
Yeah.
if mum has a particularly early or late menopause, that can run in families, but not, fortunately, the type of menopause that you have. So
Right, so
if your mum had an awful time, doesn't mean that you're going to.
Okay, fine. Right,
And is it linked to periods as well when you start your period? Is that linked to when you start your menopause?
Well, generally speaking, no. Although if you start your periods very young, so under 11, there is a small chance you might go through your menopause earlier, but it's not an inevitability. It's just a small chance.
Mine started at 10, and so I'm 52.
Mine started at 9, so...
It's not, it's just an
I know,
association.
awful. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've been on for 50 minutes, guys, and Amanda has just asked a little question, and I think we did cover it briefly before, but it was quite a positive response and she missed it. So I wonder if we can just go back to what we said, and maybe that might wrap things up, Katie.
'Cause she missed it, yeah.
She's just asking. We did address it earlier, but it was she'd like to know if we get back to our old selves after menopause, and we did mention it briefly earlier, but I thought it might be just a nice note to finish.
Supper.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just might be a nice note to finish on. If,
I mean, the good news is that for most women, it'll be a bit of a bumpy ride, and how long that is varies from woman to woman, but most women do come out the other side feeling normal again.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Well, thank you all of you so much for coming along, and really, especially coming from Scotland and coming from where have you been, Birmingham and South London and Bushy and Stanwell. So thank you everyone for sending in your questions live and also in advance. And I really do hope you all found this helpful. We're going to put it up on the Facebook group for anyone that's missed it. So, you know, feel free to watch it and have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Were you off the air?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Well done.
It was great.
Well, let's
Yeah,
see,
really good.
actually.
It's really funny. A couple of people were saying they can't hear. A load of people were saying, yes, I can hear. I don't know what you're talking about. I could hear really well. I think it's just one of those things, to be honest.
Get people that haven't got their button in their own monitor on.
Yes.
Oh yes.
That it does
My
happen.
mum-
But yeah.
Were people watching and commenting or not?